Hello traders and welcome to a new video on order flow, supply, and demand runs. We're going to be focusing on just market orders during supply and demand runs today. And what I want you guys to focus on are just categorizing each demand and each supply run that you see as weak or strong. Starting here. Does this look like a strong supply run or a weak one? And does this look like a strong demand run or a weak demand run? I'll give you guys 2 seconds. This looks like a quite strong supply run. This looks like quite a weak demand run. Now going forward, I continue to see strong selling, strong supply run, really medium to weak demand run, and then a very strong supply run here with a pretty weak retracement demand run. Overall, this seems quite bearish. I've decided that this is bearish, not really by looking at limit orders here, but by just looking at the order flows and looking to see that really people seem more eager to sell than to buy. So price should fall. And price does fall, as you can see here. Let's see if it continues to fall. Yeah, it continues to fall here. We have a lot of market sells, though, here. Is price going to move up a bit due to that much selling? Yeah, okay. Okay, so now imagine we had sold somewhere up here, and then we see this type of shape. Now, does this look bullish, or does this look more bearish to you guys? I'm going to pause it right here. So look at the supply and the demand runs here. Do we see really stronger supply or stronger demand around these prices here? I'm going to give you guys my answer. But again, I want you guys to focus on each supply and each demand run and really to tell me what looks most strong. This looks quite bullish to me. Look, I see a strong demand run. I see a really weak supply run that only gets strong near a market bottom. That's not a great sign for selling. I see a pretty strong demand run here. This looks pretty good to me. Really not much selling, and then some decent buying here, although it is near a top. During this supply run, I even see a large market buy. And even when price moves down in supply to equilibrium, I'm still seeing buying. I'm seeing buying here, buying here. This just looks quite bullish. And price rises. Now, let's see the supply and demand that we see here. Are you guys seeing more selling or more buying? What looks stronger, the sellers or the buyers here at these prices? Give you guys 5 seconds. To me, this looks quite bullish again. You know, I'm seeing strong demand, weak supply, strong demand, medium supply, really strong demand, medium supply here. But this looks quite bullish. This still does look quite bullish to me. And price rises. Okay, let's do another pause and just take stock right here of what is going on. Actually, I want to center it so it just contains this range here. Let's go here. Okay. So what do we see here? Do we guys, do you see strong demand or strong supply? Okay. I see strong demand here, really weak supply here, strong demand here, but this is looks to be a market top and it's a lot of volume. Yeah, I would say that this looks... actually this looks quite bullish to me. Look, let's talk about this. Hopefully you guys answered what you thought was weak or a strong demand or supply run. Now what we see is strong demand here, right? We see a weak supply run that really struggles to go lower. You know, really struggles to go lower. And now we see a large buy. This to me, how large is the buy? 2 million. Okay, so a $2 million buy. I'm thinking that price will likely rise. This just looks like a kind of picture that you would see before price rises. So let's see. And price does rise here after the 2.28 mil, as you can see there. Now let's go take a look at this demand and supply. Let me pause at a better spot here. Okay, well that kind of gave it away. But price does rise as predicted, and then we see some stronger supply coming in. Now let's look. Okay, hopefully it gives me a good point to stop at here. Perfect. I want you guys to look at these demand runs and supply runs, especially just focus on anything after this point to here. What do you see supply and demand wise? My answer is actually a bit strange. I see a bit of a balance actually. I see a strong demand here, strong supply, strong demand, strong supply, but I will have to say that demand does look a little bit stronger here, as you can see. Really, it looked like equilibrium, like it looked like they were just about balance, but now it looks like really demand is overtaking supply, as you can see here. So my answer was really nothing. I didn't really see much besides I saw a slight bullishness, which price went up, and now I don't really see it as bullish as anymore. But let's take stock here. What do we see? All right. I think that this is a bit different. I think that this looks more like a let me go here. I think that this looks more like a just stereotypically very strong supply and very weak demand. Strong selling here, weaker buying here, strong selling, medium buying, strong selling here. I think the price will likely fall. So price does fall. Now the question is, looking at this supply run, do we think it's going to continue going lower? All right, let's go take a look. Let's see if price continues to go lower on this selling during the supply run. And price does go lower, as you can see. So price goes a bit lower here, and then we see this rise. Now, what I want to ask you guys is, do you believe this demand? Do you think that price is likely to keep going up on strong demand, or do you think that this is actually a continued downtrend? Give you guys 3 seconds to just tell me, or to really talk to yourself at this point. Let's fast forward a little bit. Okay, well that just kind of gave it away, but do we see strong supply or strong demand here? I think it kind of answered itself though. I'm really just seeing strong demand here. This supply run was pretty weak. I mean, looking at this supply compared to this demand, it just doesn't look that strong. This overall looks quite strong. Now let's see if the sellers can prove themselves, and then we'll see how the supply runs look. Do you guys think the sellers have proven themselves, or do you think the price will continue to rise? All right. Personally, I'm not really convinced by this selling. So price does rise. As I say, I'm unconvinced of the selling, which is bullish. Yeah, this buying just looks a lot better. The reason I said I was unconvinced by the selling when price was here was I'm just not really seeing much. I'm also seeing consistent market buying during this down move, telling me that demand is still high as price is dropping. So this is really not a good sign for the sellers, and it's a pretty good sign for the buyers. Now, what do we see? Let's see here. Yeah, so demand is still high, as you can probably see here. Demand is really still high, so this would have been a beautiful time for us to have bought. Okay, so this is interesting here. Let's go look at this demand and this supply. What do we see? Let me go here and stop it. So this, to me, first of all, does this look like quite bearish or quite bullish to you guys? What do you guys think? Okay. In the short term, I think that supply is greater than demand. But one thing I do want to point out, we see strong demand. We see strong demand. We see here some demand lingering, some demand here. I think in the short term, price will fall. Yeah, so price does fall like a little bit, but I would say short term. Well, I know it answered already, but short term bearish, medium term bullish. So price does rise there. It doesn't really fall much at all. I think that we do see stronger demand, down here, and really not much supply, and price rises, as you can see. Now the 7,300 level is interesting because we know that momentum ignition can occur there. There are probably a lot of stop losses just above 7,300. So buying anywhere, on here with a deflection, it's probably not a terrible idea to target the 7,300. Only if you're bullish, of course. If you're bearish, that would be not something you'd want to do. Here we see demand greater than supply, and I think that it's just a matter of time before 7,300 falls and we see some more market buying. I'm just seeing strong demand, as you can see here. And 7,300 breaks right there. It's kind of hard to see because the zoom, but 7,300 broke right here. We went to a price high of about, what is that, 7307.5, as you can see. And right when we got to the top, we actually saw a 1.48 million sell. So this is a pretty bearish sign. And overall, it looks like supply just became quite strong. So what do you guys see here? Do you think that this downtrend will continue, or do we think that demand is still high? My answer is I did see strong demand, but the strong demand came toward the end of this trend. To me, this looks bearish. This supply looks strong. So price does continue to fall. Now let's see. Yeah, I think that after the $1.73 million sell, I think that price will likely just continue to fall. I'm not really convinced by this buying here. I'm thinking that this demand run is quite weak and that this overall supply with heavy spoofing is looking to probably carry price lower. So let's fast forward a good amount and see what happens. So price does continue to fall here, but during its fall we can see a little bit of demand coming in, right? And now we see this buying of 1.37 million. All right, let's look here. And ooh, a lot just happened. Okay, so let's unpack everything that just happened with these supply and demand runs. The first thing that we were looking at and talking about was this supply right here at 7281.5. Price does fall down to 7277. That's correct. So we did see some bearishness coming in here, but really look at this supply run. During this supply run, we're seeing all of these market buys. Really a divergence as price is going down. We're seeing market buys. And then what we see is demand just bursts out of nowhere, and we can see a lot of demand here. And this demand run gets quite strong. Really, the sellers are, this is a very weak supply run. I mean, this is just textbook weak supply run right here. We're seeing very strong demand, right? Very strong demand all around here. But this is just, I mean, just to play this back for you guys again, this selling is very weak. It's only a few $100,000 per dot. I mean, it's not that much. You know, this is just to put this in scale. This market buy was 1.37 million. This is 572,000. That's 729,000. The largest sell I think was at the bottom of 293,000, or the one at the top, $245,000. Really not that much selling here. Another really cool kind of trick that this kind of market could have given you is this demand run and then this supply and then this demand is interesting. Once you see a $644,000 market sell, or market sell delta that is, and then you see price continue to rise, this is actually a time where you could have put a limit sell here, really anywhere around here, if you think that supply is beginning to overtake demand. You know, we see a sell there, we see a sell here, a sell there. You know, this order flow is becoming a bit more bearish. And you could be thinking about maybe selling a bit higher. And, you know, that would have worked well for a very short-term scalp that you would have had to exit around here. Flipping bullish here could have been done because this is just such a weak supply run. And then once we see this initial buying, it's just the buying just takes off and you see. So that's a very, very, very good example for you guys to remember. All right, let's look at this demand and supply here. What do you see? Strong demand or strong supply runs? I see strong demand runs. I'm not really seeing much in the way of the sellers here. All I'm seeing is really demand. I mean, this is a pretty weak supply run that would have been probably good to fill your bids anywhere around here. If you see this kind of weak bearishness and strong bullishness, really I'm not seeing much reason to be anything but bullish on this. So let's see where this goes. So yep, price does rise predictably. That's not too crazy, and looks like is price going to keep rising? Yeah, it did. So really, I think that this one was pretty textbook supply-demand run dominance. If you look here, the volume shows a plus 45% market buy. So this is really looking quite bullish. The buyers are really clearly in control. We do get a deflection here, which could be used to fill a bid if you were bullish, and price continues to rise. All right. Price looks like it's continuing to rise here, putting pressure on highs. Now, I'm going to ask the question I have been asking this whole time. Let's go here. Do we see stronger demand or stronger supply at these prices now? This is a bit tough. I would have to say actually stronger supply. This is not a very, very confident answer of, oh, strong supply. It's not like the kind of example we had down here where it was just textbook clear, demand dominance, around here. But this seems bearish, but not very, very bearish. We were right here, yeah. This does seem bearish though. This supply seems quite strong, and I would not be shocked to see price fall. If price rises, I would really want to see the amount of market selling that occurs during the demand run. And let's go see. And what I said was not a typo or what's it called misquoted. I did say let's see how much market selling occurs during the demand run, because typically we look at market buying during the demand run, which is here, all those greens. But market selling during a demand run here is also going to clue us in to really who's in control. Okay, this is really just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing to have traded. Because if you were bearish here and you had shorted a bit here, a bit here, a bit here, a bit here, layered in orders as the learning course shows you, this would have been a pretty good looking short. If you had shorted around here in the short term, price just dumps. So supply was greater than demand. In the very short term, yes, price rises, as you can see here, and tests a little bit of these levels. But this just looks quite bearish, as you can see there. So now let's imagine that we had shorted with an average price of 73.43. You are currently looking at a price of 73.31. You're looking at this supply and demand, and I want you guys to tell me who looks stronger. I think that demand is stronger, but I think in the short term price will fall. So I think short term price falls, medium term price rises. I'm really just seeing a good amount of demand here, which is a little bit scary for holding a short at 73.43. Let's see. Price does fall here. Now I think price is soon to rise. Let's see. So it looks like price isn't really doing anything at all. All right, let's go here. Yeah, so price is just doing nothing. So price did fall in the short term, as you can see, but really it doesn't look like price has any direction at all. And price rises. So really what I had said did come true. I said short-term bearishness, medium-term bullishness. The reason I diagnosed that is I see strong demand here. It's probably going to resolve with a price move up because demand overtaking supply. Really this equilibrium also, this didn't really leave me bullish or bearish per se, but I mean, actually no, I take that back. This looks actually quite bullish and price rises. Okay, so hopefully, if you had shorted at 73.43, hopefully you would have taken profit anywhere around here. That would have been nice. Now let's look at this demand and this supply, these demand runs and these supply runs, right here. I want you guys to focus on just the demand and supply here above the 73.50. We don't have to look at the one before because I want to look at current supply, current demand runs. All right, let's go a little bit more forward. I want a little bit more data here. I want to see a little bit more action. Well, that does reveal it. So supply does overtake demand, as you can see here. This one's a bit tougher because we see a very strong demand run here, but really this constant pressure, I know I said I would only talk about market buys and market sells, kind of breaking that here, but this constant pressure on the 73.50 bid cluster is really not a great sign for the buyers. And we break through it with how much selling on this one? 2.19 million. 2.19 million market selling in Delta. So this is looking bearish. And price continues to fall. Price does climb back up to this high volume area here and here, but can't really go much higher. All right, so supply demand here. What do we see? Let's get more data in here. Do we continue to see strong demand or strong supply? This is pretty bad selling. What is that, $128,000? It's really not much selling. Let's see here if the sellers get any stronger. Do you guys see stronger buyers or stronger sellers at these prices? I know the scale just got kind of weird. Let me clean that up a bit. Okay, well that revealed it. It's like every time I try to go forward, it reveals it. So what I was saying before, let's go talk about what had happened. I wasn't really convinced by this selling, nor really this selling either. But what we didn't see, because I fast forwarded a little too quickly, is just these strong sells, these millions of dollars of sells. Now during this range, because this was still in the range, this is the highest volume that we see. And the two highest volume, actually this is the highest, this is the second highest, this is the third highest. The highest volume we see is a $1.8 million market sell. And this is a pretty bearish sign and price falls. All right, this time I'm not going to fast forward, I'm just going to leave it here. Do we see stronger supply or demand? I think supply looks greater than demand. Really medium to weak demand run here. Stronger supply here, stronger supply here, stronger supply here. I think for a kind of way to trade this, potentially to put limit sells here, here, here. Maybe putting a limit sell here, putting a limit sell here, maybe putting a limit sell here. And then hoping the price goes up short term and then goes down medium term. All right, price is struggling to rise, probably because of how strong supply is. Well, now price is beginning to rise, and this would have probably filled your first order right about there. So if your first order got filled at 73.24, let's see what demand and supply does. Okay, so this may have filled your second order. And yeah, and now we see that beautiful strong selling. So this weak demand is really not a terrible thing to be selling into, as you can see. And beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing that had just happened. Aren't the markets just lovely? So you would have been quite profitable in your short. I mean, look at this. So had you shorted anywhere around the 73.24, and then also maybe higher at the 73.28, that's an average about a short of 73.26. Now price falls in very strong supply. Now on supply this high, this low, let's say you had taken profit here, that would have been probably good. And now we see after a stop loss hunt / momentum ignition, price going a bit higher. This is just another textbook example of what occurred just before a large sell-off. Weak demand, strong supply. Now let's look here. I want to get that one out of there. Okay, what do we see? Strong supply or strong demand? I see strong demand. We did see a very beautiful sell-off of about, I think, $25 to $30 quite quickly. Now what I'm seeing is just weak selling and strong buying. Examples, strong demand run, weak supply, weak supply. Really, equilibrium is dominated by the buyers, strong demand, and potentially bidding anywhere here may not be a terrible idea. Also bidding here, maybe bidding here would probably be good. So this would have filled our first bid. This sell is a little bit large. That might be a little bit worrying. Well, let's see how that materializes. These sells are getting a little bit large too. Okay, this is interesting. If you're in a long position right here, would you just exit out of this position really at break even or at a very slight loss, or would you just hold it? Do you think that demand is still greater than supply? All right, let's go take a look if price goes up or down. Yeah, so price does go up. So I was, to be honest, a little bit worried about these large market sells. They do get absorbed by the market, and then we can see demand taking control here. So holding your long position here would have probably worked out fine if we had bought around the 73.26. And it looks like price is going higher. All right. Let's go to here. Now, does it look like demand or supply is stronger? To me, this looks like supply does look a little bit stronger right now. And price falls, as you can see. I'm not really seeing much demand here. Yep, price continues to fall. Supply is still greater than demand. These supply runs are really strong. And yeah, price is probably going to continue to fall. And price falls a little bit, a few dollars. Are we going to see any demand coming in here? Nope. Price just continues to fall. So price just fallen very, very slowly. It doesn't really look like anything spectacular is happening demand-wise. Now we get a very strong demand run. Now at this point in time, do you think that A, price is just going to revert back to these values or go lower? B, price is going to do a weak supply run down where we can actually buy / bid and take profit higher? Or do you think the price C just goes higher and just catapults high? B would allow us to buy anywhere around here. A would allow us to look to see what happens after price goes below here. C would allow us potentially to look for a price move up and then look for retracement later. Let's see what happens. A, B, C. Let's see. So it looks like C occurs. Price just continues to go higher. Strong demand. Now, if you were here, would you rather buy or sell? Do we see strong supply or strong demand? All right, let's go take a look at what happens. Yep, some strong demand coming in. Strong demand, yeah, demand looks to overtake supply. Okay, not much movement. Now we get some movement. Demand still overtaking supply. Demand still higher. And demand completes up to here. And now we see this selling here. Now, does this look like a strong supply or strong demand run overall? To me, this actually looks quite bearish. Not very bearish, but I'm just not really seeing much conviction during this demand run of the buyers. Also, during this demand run, I'm seeing this large sell, which is not a good sign for the buyers. This is pretty weak demand on this move here after this initial supply run. Then this supply run looks quite strong. This looks quite bearish to me. So I'd be inclined to potentially short at, here, 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 short all around here. Because this looks like price is about to fall. All right, so hopefully we could have potentially filled any of our shorts around here. This still looks bearish to me. And price falls, predictably. Yep, so price does in fact fall. Let's go take a look at really what's going on here. I had a bearish bias when I looked at this. This just doesn't look like, pardon me, bearish bias when I saw this. This just looks like quite strong supply and really not much demand around here. And then this really confirms it. We get that very strong supply move. Now, an interesting thing about this demand run is we actually do see a good amount of demand here, but really no follow through. When you see large demand during a demand run, so it didn't initiate the demand run, and then you just see smaller market buys that don't do anything much after, that's a sign that the buyers have been exhausted and the price will likely fall. And price does fall, as you can see here. Sellers still in control here. Let's see what they can do. Sellers still in control, and they move price down a few dollars, as you can see here. Then they lose control, and price rises, as you can see. Now we're seeing demand really overtake supply here. Oh, large market sell of, not that large, just 200, whoa, actually 1.67 million. That is large. And look at that. Yeah, so let us rewind and take a look at these supply and demand runs. Yeah, so medium demand run, medium to strong demand run here. But this large sell, look at this equilibrium here, just all selling. Sell, 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 sell. And then we just get this price dump, really. So really, let's go back. We saw a strong supply here that ended with a large $1.88 million market buy. Price rise and demand run, yeah. This is still quite bullish until this. When this occurs, this is probably quite bearish, and price falls, as you can see. Now, at these prices here, do we think that this is more bullish or more bearish? I think that this is bullish to me. Let's see. These demand runs look strong. Let's see. Still thinking bullish. Okay, so I think I actually will say for the first time in the video that I did get this one wrong. I don't really know why I said bullish, but let's go take a look at the supply and demand runs before we had this information. I just saw a good amount of demand coming in. But once we get this supply, I think that this supply is a bit too strong and it causes price to fall. As you can see here, and price continues to just fall. I think that the really turning point of the market was right here during this supply run, where we got millions of dollars worth of market selling. Then on this very weak demand run, we get this classic pattern of a strong supply run, weak demand run. This is where we could short, and price falls, as you can see. And continues to fall. All right. This is a not too strong of a demand run. And price falling. This is a stronger supply run. And price, falls here. So strong supply. Yep. And continued strong supply. Okay, let's go a little bit forward to see what materializes here. Okay, so we got strong supply, and then we got some market buyers coming in, and this looks like stronger demand. Yeah, this is looking like quite strong demand to me. Doesn't really look like the sellers have much power here. Continued market buying, that makes sense. Now, do you guys see the market buyers or the market sellers in control with the supply and demand runs here? I still see just the buyers in control. Not much reason for me to be bearish here, and price does rise, as you can see predictably. Still bullish. Let's see what happens here. Okay, we see a supply run here. Would you be interested in, well, this is the historical, but do you think that it would be a good idea to limit sell around here? Or around here? Let's see what would have happened. So this could have filled our first limit sell. And price falls, good. The reason that I was bearish is because this strong supply run, and that makes me think about selling only if we see a weak demand run. And we do see a weak demand run, a very weak demand run. This is a spot where we could think about limit selling. Now, this would have filled all of our limit sells, which would have been good, as long as price continues to fall. Beautiful, and price does fall. So this would have been a beauty of a move for us to fill really all of those limit sells that we wanted to fill. This would have filled all of them. We would have been in a slight loss, but we're in profit here, as you can see. Now, whether or not to hold this, let's go check. Yep, so this looks good. This would have been a very profitable trade. Okay. Now, do we see strong supply or strong demand? Still strong supply. Yep, so still strong supply. Strong demand run, strong supply, continued strong supply. I do see a large market buy here, though, which does spell a bit of weakness, but that's counteracted by strong sells. And I think we've just gone live now. I think that this data is now live. Yeah. So what I see here is still just strong supply. All right, guys, that's going to be it for the video on supply and demand runs. We looked at market buys and market sells during demand runs and market buys and market sells during supply runs. What you always want to pay attention to is really looking at who's in control. If you see large market buying during a demand run and then weak market selling on a supply run, that's a sign that the buyers are in control. The vice versa, and that would be a sign that the sellers are in control. You typically want to position yourself on the side that is winning the battle. Right now, the sellers are winning the battle, so it would probably be better to think about if price goes up, and price goes up on weak market buying, selling somewhere around here, as an example. Around here, here, or here. But if I saw very strong buying, I would just pull my limit sells and not sell. Now, if I see price go down and then see some great market buying, price goes up and then pulls back, that could be a price spot for me to limit buy or to bid, as you can see. Lots of ways you can play this game, but just looking at the dominance of market buyers versus market sellers during supply and demand runs, I think is going to give you quite the edge. With that, keep practicing, keep studying, and keep trading order flow. Happy trading, guys.